What's going on, everyone? Jeremy here from The Quartering, following the deplatforming story of Parler and the collusion of a tech oligopoly in Silicon Valley between Twitter, Google, and Amazon, effectively erasing a Twitter alternative from the planet. Look, I've said this before, I'll say this again. You don't have to use Parler, you don't have to use Twitter. None of these things are like a human need or right. But at the end of the day, the double standard applied to Parler when it was convenient, and the timing and collusion of, in my opinion, Amazon, Google, and Twitter to eliminate, and Apple too, eliminate a competitor is disgusting. It is shocking. It is unprecedented. And if you're okay with it, then I guess I got a boot for you to lick. I don't care if you like Parler or not, but at the end of the day, what we have here is a huge multi-billion-dollar corporation exercising their monopoly and removing a competitor right out in the open. They said, of course, it was because they were worried about incitement, but that was bologna sausage. Okay, Twitter is full of similar statements that they use to smear Parler. Amazon effectively destroyed the company, and some of the coverage is finally catching up to the real story here. I don't care about the Twitter banning Trump thing. I care that there's nowhere else viable for people to go, and that's because of this tech monopoly or oligopoly. You get that, right? Like people saying, oh, well, Trump, blah, blah, blah. Okay, yeah, great. He doesn't need to use Twitter, but it'd be nice if there was an alternative out there, but they're not allowing that. You see big tech banning alternative social media platform Parler was chilling. White House Office and Trade Manufacturing Director Peter Navarro said, what we have here is a classic collusive oligopoly. If you don't know what an oligopoly is, it's basically when like 2 to 3, a small amount of companies run basically a cartel over a space, and a monopoly is when it's just one. Kind of new wine in an old bottle, Navarro told Fox Business. What we saw is an attack on Parler was chilling to me. It was one thing to deplatform everybody for free speech. It's one thing to deplatform everyone for free speech, but it was a pincer move where Google and Apple, the first part of the pincer, was not allowed, did not allow Parler apps to be downloaded. Navarro said Amazon came in for the brutal kill by taking the cloud away as a small company because it was no longer able to access the data. Effectively, Amazon wiped out that company. Navarro believes Parler has a heck of a lawsuit for damages, and Congress needs to look very carefully at the collusion because this is a serious trust issue. Well, yeah, I mean, if you think that it was, what a coincidence that the day a man with 80 million followers is banned, that the next most logical place for him to go is also banned. If you don't think that that was coordinated, again, boot, tongue, you know what to do. And you even see Trump wanted to join Parler and call himself Person X before it shut down, according to CEO of the social media app. President Donald Trump considered creating an account on Parler, the social media app popular with his followers, under the pseudonym Person X. Parler CEO John Matz said in a court filing Wednesday. He went on to allege that Amazon Web Services was aware of these plans and actually terminated his contract with Parler the week, in part to deny Trump for their social media presence. I mean, if you don't believe that, again, boot. AWS, that's Amazon Web Services, cutting off Parler on Monday, took the app offline, and the CEO believes it may never come back. AWS said Parler poses a very real risk to the public safety, and Google and Apple barred the app from their app stores. Parler had become a haven for far-right activity and misinformation because of its lax stance on moderating content. Some users called for further bad behavior after things that happened at the Capitol. Now, his filing on Wednesday came after the social media network hit Amazon Web Services with an antitrust lawsuit. The filing disputed Amazon's claims that it had repeatedly warned Parler about suspending the platform contract because of bad content. Look, I understand when you use somebody else's servers, for example, in this case it was Amazon, they're going to have some level of control over you. And if there are people making like direct threats or calls for this type of thing on your platform, I generally don't see that as a problem at having that post removed. And if the same person does it repeatedly and goes through the process anyone else would, and they get themselves banned, well, that's the way it goes. But the thing is, I had 165,000 followers on Parler, and I never once saw any of this behavior in my feeds from anybody. So they cherry picked, of course, the worst actors to smear the platform, just like we could do for Twitter. Now, Trump wanted to create a Parler account or a Gab account, but apparently Jared Kushner, his son-in-law and senior advisor, stopped him from doing so. I don't know why. That seems weird. Mainstream social media platforms and companies have distanced themselves from Trump since the everything that happened at the Capitol on Wednesday. Trump has not tried to publicly talk about the election since then, but he did say he will not attend Joe Biden's inauguration. Well, that's on brand for Trump. But now Joe Rogan actually getting into the conversation. Joe Rogan explains why he's worried about social media censorship. Censorship has been at the forefront of the discussion lately, and the U.S. president was suspended from Twitter, Facebook, and other sites. While some people applauded the decision made by these companies, Joe Rogan doesn't share their optimism. Authoritarianism in this country is like, there's a lot of people that like it because it silences their opponents, he said, while speaking to his guest, Yanis Pappas. Yeah, that's literally the correct take, Joe. People are celebrating this because it owns Drumpf. I mean, that's literally what they're doing, and they're throwing their hat in with authoritarians. The former Fear Factor host and UFC commentator brought up the rival social media application being shut down and taken off Google and Apple stores for allegedly spreading hate. Quote, "What percentage is spreading hate? What are the numbers? Is this wise that we shut down all discourse that you disagree with?" He rhetorically asked. Like, it's not good if someone gets on there and they're talking about doing bad things or spreading these other type of ideas, whatever. But you're right, that's not good. Essentially, he's asking the same question I'm asking and that everyone should be asking. When Amazon says that, Parler is guilty of fostering these bad people and these bad ideas or bad comments or whatever, according to them, like, again, what percentage are we talking here? 0.01%? It doesn't matter. They cherry picked 10 or 20 or 30 comments from some bad actors. And by the way, I'm not saying I know this for a fact, but you know how easy it is to just create an account and then create some smear comments. We see this with blue checkmarks invading Discords and then posting over-the-line comments and then reporting on it, essentially creating their own news. I mean, this type of stuff happens all the time. So even though Rogan agreed that some speech is problematic, he doesn't feel censorship is the right solution, and it sets a weird precedent. It sets a precedent where people that are in power can decide that something is wrong speak, something is bad, and you can just eliminate it completely, he added. And then things like this happen. They keep going. They don't just stop at things like that we can all agree are terrible. They go for things that maybe you don't think are terrible, but other people do, and then they keep going further and further. Well, that's exactly correct. And Joe Rogan should know about that, as I'm sure it's a hot topic over at Spotify with his $100 million deal constantly coming under scrutiny from overpaid, whiny, soy-infused Spotify employees. The idea that people still can't see essentially the forest from the trees here. They can't see that this is a major issue in terms of censorship, a major issue in terms of antitrust with super huge mega corporations. Like, imagine thinking you're fighting the resistance when you're throwing your hat in with Google, Amazon, Apple, and Twitter. Just think about that. Think about calling yourself anti-establishment or running around talking about how you're fighting the power when you're literally saying the same things the power is saying. just think about a little food for thought. I hope you enjoyed this video. We'll talk to you again real soon.